And today we're going to talk about what it's like to be a baby when your siblings homeschool. First of all, I like to be as grouchy as possible. I love to rip papers from the table. I love to go through books. And my favorite pastime is definitely needing a nap right as we start school. What's up, everybody? It's Bethany from Maple and Roots, and I know I promised you guys another video a year from now. However, since we're stuck with this stay-at-home order, I thought I'd make another one. And let's face it, I really don't feel like cleaning my house, so here I am. If you don't know me, I am a mom to 6 and a passionate home educator. We have been homeschooling since our oldest biological daughter was about 4, and now she is 11. And I have put one teenager through high school by homeschooling her, and she is now in college. So here I am. I'm very excited to be answering your questions about homeschooling. I tend to get a lot of questions on a regular basis about homeschooling. So I thought I would just put a general thing out there saying, hey, ask me anything, and here we are. So here's your questions. The first one that I thought that we would start out with is, did you always want to homeschool? And the short answer is no. I definitely did not always want to homeschool. Growing up in the 90s, the homeschoolers that we knew were always kind of weird. I'm talking to you, my best friend. And so they you know the types, the like jean skirts and sneakers kind of homeschoolers, you know, the cell phones on the outside of their belts, that like that. I was actually homeschooled for a year in 6th grade, and academically I actually remember the most from that year than I do probably any other time during elementary, middle, and high school. So I got a very good education, but I just wanted to be in a classroom and be popular and make friends and things like that. So I was really left with kind of a negative taste of homeschooling in my mouth. So when we had our daughters and then our sons, and as our daughter grew and we started talking about preschool, I wanted to put our oldest in a local preschool, and we just couldn't afford it. It was just too expensive. I stayed home. It didn't make any sense. So I low-key started like homeschooling. This is when like Pinterest was on like first on the rise, so there was like a lot of things coming out available, you know, to do that with. And the further I went into it, the more I became passionate about it. And then after a lot of prayer, I really realized that, you know, our children, we really want to be homeschooling our children, not by necessity, but out of like want. And a lot of that has to do with being able to pick and choose our children's education, and really our educational goals, which is to create lifelong learners. I don't want children who just memorize to answer tests. I want children who love learning. So when they grow up, if they're not great at geometry, that's fine, but they're passionate about geography, that they're going to self-learn and put everything that they want to into that. So that's kind of the short story in that. The next question is, why did you want to start homeschooling? I feel like I just answered that, so I guess I don't need to go and clarify anymore. A lot of homeschoolers, there is a religious aspect to homeschooling, and for us, that is a huge part of it. There's the term that says, you know, give to Caesar what is Caesar and give to God's what is God's, and for us, we really want to keep our children home and realizing that they are not yet equipped to to really carry that burden of evangelism, and we want to make sure that they have all the tools in their toolbox before. Oh, hi. Wow. Wow. Why are you here? You've never paid attention to me. Go away. Thank you. Okay, I'm totally lost now. Yeah, so we really want to have a say in our children's education, and some of it is just different philosophies. I would say we are very classic eclectic homeschoolers. We pull from a lot of different things. We do a lot of Charlotte Mason. We're very self-learning, self-directed, very that unschooling way. I pull from a lot of like unit studies, some classical things, really what works for our family and honestly for the individual child. The next question is, how do you deal with little ones when you're homeschooling? This is a really funny question because it is a challenge, okay? Because I've always had little ones while homeschooling older ones. That's been my entire career of homeschooling. So you can do things like busy boxes. You can do different activities, even like here you guys can paint and those kinds of things. Sometimes people use screen time. You know, really what works for your family. Obviously, if you're doing school for 3 hours a day, you really don't want your little ones on their screens for 3 hours a day. So this has definitely been a challenge for me with our newest little guy who is 15 months old. He's napping right now and I think I just heard him. Yep, there he is. We're going to take a break. Okay, after a quick or not so quick nurse break, I am back, and I believe I was in the middle of answering a question about what to do with little ones when you're homeschooling. And as I said before, it's a really hard thing. So I try to aim our school time for nap time with our youngest. I have children fighting. So I try to aim our school time for a nap time. It tends to work better for us. So we actually don't really do school until the evening. So we don't actually really do school until like the afternoon, and it just tends to work better for our family and how we work. We definitely try to keep a lot of books, a lot of blocks, a lot of like nature playthings. Occasionally we'll even do school outside, so that way the little ones can go outside and play. So if you're in a warm climate, that's a really good thing to do too. Like just like do school outside, do your reading outside. You can stagger if you have older children and younger children, so you can be working with one older child while the other one plays with the younger ones. You can kind of create a designated play area while you're in the next room doing school. Definitely if you have little ones, baby wear, that's like a huge thing you can stand and teach. I do that quite a bit, especially when my guy doesn't want to nap. I'll just pop him on my back and teach, and usually he just falls asleep. Or sit him in a high chair and give him a snack like while you're teaching, or with your children. It's definitely a balance, and it definitely depends on personality type. I've had some kids that like love when I give them little things to do while their siblings are doing school, and I have other kids who fight me and want to be on the TV the whole time. It's sometimes depending. Pinterest is full of great ideas though for things like busy boxes and other things like that. Okay, the next question is, do your kids ever feel like they miss out? This is a good question. I personally don't feel like my kids feel like they miss out. That's a mouthful. My kids don't really know any... Actually, that's not true. My kids have visited classrooms before, so they kind of know how the school structure works. Most of my kids get exasperated at the thought of being confined in one place for 8 hours. I think usually the only thing that they feel like they miss is when they're younger and that they're on the bus. Maybe things like friends, but my kids have a really good group of friends, so I don't think it's anything that they've noticed. So no, in fact, they will say that they love doing things like taking a random trip on a Thursday, or going up to the nursing home with their dad when he preaches and things like that. So they really enjoy being able to do those things. The next question is there a curriculum that you advise? Okay, I have a lot of curriculums that I like. I have a lot of curriculums that I don't like, and then I have curriculums that I love. So I have kind of bounced from curriculum to curriculum, so I've actually used quite a bit, I think. I have some that I'm really faithful to, like Life of Fred. I've used that for all of my kids, including my high schooler. It is a fantastic series. I highly recommend it. Anyway, I'm not going to go off because I'll do another video talking about Life of Fred. Yeah, so it really depends on the year that I'm in. So it really depends on the year that I'm in on if I have a favorite or not a favorite, if that makes sense. We definitely tend to choose faith-based curriculums that align with evangelical Christian beliefs. That is something I'm passionate about, unless it's something like math, but we do use a faith-based math program. And history, I'm incredibly picky in, so we actually don't use a history curriculum. I build one ourselves because I haven't found anything that has been satisfying for me yet that checks off all of the boxes. So I have a favorite math curriculum, that's Life of Fred. Other curriculums that I love are Cottage Press. I think that their stuff is really awesome. We like Gather Round. We've used one of their units so far, and we're going to start another one soon. They're a pretty good curriculum. I've seen things from Beast Academy for math, and that tends to be really good. My friend loves that. My Father's World, Sunlight, all good things that I've heard about. I think I'm going to do a separate video talking about curriculums, my favorites, my not favorites, and maybe that can help people. Yeah. Okay, so the next question is, do you use the same curriculum for all of your kids or different based on their needs? Okay. So this is a year-by-year, kid-by-kid process, right? Because every year our kids are growing and changing, and our kids have different personality types. For the most part, my older girls will do the same science and history and literature, like read-alouds. Other than that, their language arts is separate. Their math is separate. They're right, things like that, are separate. Now, we have been using for the past 5 weeks Gather Round curriculum, and that has kind of everything bundled together. And so, but again, their language arts are separate because they're just in different places. Ideally, I like to combine as much as I can. It makes my life so much easier when I can give one lesson and then break off into individual tasks versus having to sit down and do school with each kid. I've done that before. I did that last year. No. It's too much. It's just with all these kids in the house, it's just too much. I'm exhausted. I end up grumpy. I often found that things would really slip through the cracks for that, that we wouldn't be able to accomplish what we needed to accomplish. Okay, the next question, my kids are so loud, is how do I convince my husband to homeschool? I'm so excited to do so, but he's just not on board. Okay, so we were in a similar situation. I got way excited about homeschooling long before my husband did. He was really hesitant. He was cautious. He just wasn't sure. And so I have a tendency to obsess and push. That's kind of my personality. I just want to push until I'm right? But after praying about it, I didn't feel like it was my job to force my husband into agreeing to let us homeschool. I don't think that that's a healthy thing. So I prayed and I said, well, okay, God, if we're supposed to do this, you're going to show my husband because he has a relationship with you. Okay.
I didn't wake me up.
Okay, so my husband really came to the conclusion on his own. He actually was listening to a sermon by R.C. Sproul Jr., I think. Hopefully I'm not wrong. And they did talk about that quote, give to Caesar what is Caesar and give to God what is God's, right? And talking about that being our children. Now, we're allies. We're very united in that we believe that our home is the best place for our children. So for you, I would really first stop and pray for your husband. Pray with your husband. Ask him to seek God on it, right? Because if God is calling your family and your husband has a relationship with Jesus, right, we're going to trust that he's going to hear that from him. If your husband doesn't have a relationship with Jesus, again, pray, like, that God will change his heart. For us, it's a little bit easier because our public school systems are not good here. So it's, kind of an obvious. So like if our kids weren't homeschooled, we would really try to keep them out of the public school as much as we could. So, and another thing for us too is that because we are in family ministry and we primarily worked with middle and high school students, we have seen a lot of things that we don't like coming out of the public school. So that definitely has weight for us in with our own children on choosing where and how that they're educated. And so yeah. All right, the next question that we have is, what if your kid wants to go to public school? We try to practice gentle parenting. We try to be empathetic and hear our children. We try to let them have a say in their life because it is their life. However, we do believe that we are the parents and that God has entrusted us with these children. So when they're young, I think it's easy. As they get older, I don't know. I honestly don't know what we would do if we had a kid who was desperate to go to public school. For us, we really firmly believe that God has called our children to be home. And honestly, our kids are a part of that. Like, we're honest with our kids. We talk to our kids about that, what a public school classroom, the pros and cons and all of those things. And as of right now, they love being home. Okay. So I'm not sure. A lot of that would really depend on the school system that is around us, what's going on around us and what is the motives behind wanting to go to public school. What is driving? Do they feel like they need more friends? That's, a possibility. Do they want more opportunities for clubs and things like that? Okay, well, we can be involved in clubs without necessarily going to the school and things. So a lot of that would depend on their motives, The next question is, and I think that this will probably be the last one. If you have more questions, shoot them below because I have more and I'm definitely willing to do part 2 to this. So what do you do when your family doesn't support homeschooling? This is a really hard one, and I am grateful that this hasn't been an issue in our life as of right now. My family is very supportive of homeschooling. In fact, my parents, all of their grandkids are homeschooled, and as is my mother-in-law, she's very supportive. My sister-in-laws and things. So, the first thing I would say is that these are your children and they have been entrusted to you. So they haven't been entrusted to your mother-in-law. They've been entrusted to you, right? So they are your kids. And while we can seek guidance in wise biblical counsel, ultimately you are the one who has to answer to Christ for your children. So that's the first thing. Secondly, it is okay to say like, well, I respect your opinion, but this is what we're going to do because we have prayed and we have sought God, and this is where He's leading our family. So you don't have to like it, but you do have to respect our opinion or our choices in doing this. And sometimes it's just putting up boundaries with people. Like, I love you and I know that you love us, but you need to stay in your lane, right? Yeah. It's a hard thing, and it's hard when it's people that we love, and it's hard not to take it personal. Like, well, do you think that I would be bad at homeschool? Like those kinds of things. Most of the time, I feel like when people question homeschooling, it's because they themselves have a lack of education and understanding about homeschooling. They have, again, this skewed picture of like, living on a commune, never having social interaction, weirdos, right? But that's not homeschooling, especially now here in 2020. It's not the same. It's very different. We have incredible resources, so many resources, more resources than anybody else, And if we look at history, majority of the world has been homeschooled up until this point, up until the past 100 years, right? So, there's a lot of statistics that are backing homeschooling and, why it's so wonderful and stuff. Okay, so I'm going to end here. I do just want to state, like, if you are finding this video and you are currently with a stay-at-home order and you're considering homeschooling because your kids are now home, I do want to specifically mention that right now, crisis schooling is not homeschooling. Okay, getting a packet of schoolwork from your teacher or doing those Zoom calls, you are learning at home, but it is not home education. Okay, home education is so much more, from being able to really pick your educational philosophies and how you're going to teach your children and what you believe of that and your goals in education, right? To giving your children the freedom and the flexibility with their schoolwork, to being outside of the house, right? Homeschoolers, we are not locked, for the most part. We are not locked in our homes like this, okay? So we are dying just as much as you are right now. We want to get out. We want to see our friends. We want to do our classes. We want to do our sports. So just really keep that in mind. But if during this time you're doing this and you're going, I have this like tug in my heart, go for it, because you're not going to regret it. I really believe that God really blesses us like at home with our kids. It is a blessing to me. It is an incredible thing when you're sitting there with your 6-year-old and that 6-year-old is sounding out words and that reading is clicking, right? Or when they come to you and they've done this super like long division thing and that you probably can't even do yourself, right? It is incredible seeing your children grow, and on the other side, it is incredible when you have a child and you're making up your transcripts and saying you are done, you have graduated high school, and we did it, we did this, right? So let that be encouragement. Thank you for stopping by. As weird as it feels, I watch a lot of YouTube videos. Go ahead and subscribe now if you haven't done so. Maybe I might do videos more than once a year. I don't know, we'll see. I think I'm going to do a curriculum review pretty soon, or some of my favorites. I'm not really sure what it's going to look like yet. So yeah, go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your questions. I'd love to hear your answers to these questions below. And yeah, God bless. Talk to you later. Bye, guys.